Hello and welcome to Mastering Education, a podcast all about helping students learn better. This is the first episode of a series of episodes I'm going to be doing focusing all on the performing arts side of education. And I'm really, really happy to have in the studio with me today, Immy. Immy is halfway through her first year at Mountview College of Performing Arts.
Yeah.
It is called that, yeah. So Mountview College of Performing Arts, doing performing arts degree with musical theatre as the kind of main kind of thing. So we're going to do what we always do, which is kind of starting off with context of how Immy kind of got into it, going through GCSE, A-level into auditioning. Immy's also got an amazing story as well in that she actually sort of has a career as a musical theatre performer. So we'll also talk about how she has kind of evolved being quite a young sort of actor into where she is now. But with that said, let's crack on. Hey, Immy.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Amazing, thank you. So we're on half term at the moment.
Yes.
How has your first term been at Mountview?
It's been really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
What are some of the things you've kind of enjoyed most, would you say?
I think I've never done a whole day just of performing arts training before. So I think going in every day, all day, just doing what I love, it's been really cool. And because you do it all day, it gives you the time to really break it down and like focus on it in a way I've never done before.
Interesting.
So I think that's really helpful and something that I definitely had to get used to because I've never had.
Was it a bit of a shock to the system?
Yeah. And I was like, we're going like quite slowly, but actually it's really helpful too because it gives you time to think about stuff and then you can discover things that you've never thought about before. And it's just the best way to improve, I think. But it's fun.
So I think definitely we're going to go through a sort of day in the life of like a sort of performing arts sort of degree student, obviously focusing on your experience at Mountview. Let's go back in time. So let's not all the way to the very beginning, but let's start with when did performing arts kind of like become a thing for you? When did it start as a hobby?
I think I was about 9 years old. So I was a gymnast my whole life. And I loved an acro gymnast. So the ones kind of a bit like cheerleading, but like, so I'd go on someone's like hands and they'd throw me up and I'd like backflip over and stuff.
I've watched the Netflix show Cheer, so I like know everything.
But, and I always enjoyed the competition part of that, like the performing. And then when I was about 9, I did Fame at Milton Keynes Theatre. And I just loved it so much. And I realized that I was sort of going off gymnastics. I wasn't really a fan of that. And that was something I wanted to pursue. So one of the adult actors in that had started working at a new Saturday school called UPA. And we bumped into him one day in MK and I just got to talking with him and he was like, oh yeah, like I've just started working here. You should check it out. So I did. And now 10 years later, I work there. Oh, wow. And I just did that every Saturday for like 7 years.
Okay.
And I started to pick up dance after school, like ballet and street dance. And I kind of just got obsessed with it, really.
So I imagine, do you think there's quite a lot of crossover between gymnastics and dance?
Definitely, yeah. Because I would perform in competitions. We did them quite regularly. And there's obviously an audience and a whole panel. And that was my favorite part of gymnastics. So I think I was used to performing in front of people. But it was just gymnastics. I was going off. And then when I realized, oh, wait, I can still do this in another form. And I'm a dancer, so gymnastics, obviously, I've moved a lot. And so I was like, wait, I can do this. And it's actually way more fun. And yeah, I think
amazing.
I just went into it and I haven't looked back, really.
So it kind of felt like, you were taking skills that you had already kind of established from quite a young age, you know, as doing sort of gymnastics and then being able to channel that into that performance, what you loved into dance.
Yeah.
So how did it then move into, when did you do your first professional job?
I was 13 years old.
Wow.
And I did Big the Musical in the West End in the Dominion Theatre in Tottenham Court Road. And so, yeah, I did when I was younger, around 12, 13. I went for a couple of auditions, like Matilda I did a couple of times and stuff like that. And then Big kind of just hit. And so I did that for couple of months because it was only a short run because our set was huge. So I think we could only be in certain theatres and they had a little block. So I did that. And then I did a couple of like extra work, like in Apple TV, and I was on Michael McIntyre's one of his episodes, just like a little person there. And yeah, so I started professionally at 13.
Okay.
But,
wow.
Yeah.
So you moved. You started UPA at 9, right?
Yes.
You were roughly 9.
10 years
so
old.
wow, and then within like 4 years, you're finding yourself in the West End. You know, that's crazy. So. How do you get there though? Like, was that through an agent? Was it open auditions? How did that work?
So yeah, I had an agency, and then. Well, I didn't have an agency. I was part of an agency, and they got me loads of auditions. And
how did you get with them? What was the genesis point of like meeting an agent? Was it through UPA or?
I had an agent via UPA. The guy who owns it, one of his friends, started a kids agency.
Okay.
I don't know if she has the kids agency anymore. She's got a very successful adults one, and I'm not sure how the kids ones is. But so I was with her, and then shortly after that, I don't actually know how Daisy and Dukes came about.
I know them. I've
had
heard
a
of them.
friend. Yeah, it was Daisy and Dukes,
right.
and I must have had a friend because they're massive.
Yeah.
Who was in with them, and so they were like, "You should check it out." And I auditioned for that, and luckily got in.
Okay.
And then I think Big might have been my first audition with them.
Wow.
So they put me up for loads of stuff.
Yeah,
they were brilliant, but. Yeah, I think Big was my first audition with them. And
do you know what? It's actually funny. So when I signed with my first agent when I was at drama school, I got the first job I auditioned for as well. Yeah, and my agent, so I mean, I literally had like 3 conversations with them the whole time, you know, because I'd only just signed with them, and they got me this audition, and they called me like 2 days later. I think I did just 1 round. They called me 2 days later and they said, "Can you guess what we're calling you about?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe I've got a recall." And they were like, "No, you've got the job." And they were like as shocked as I was. It was crazy. Like the luck of that, you know, it's mad.
So you just went in once and they were like, yeah. What job was that?
It was a show called Punk Rock. By a writer called Simon Stevens. This was back in like 2009. And it was set in a school, and there was like, spoiler alert, school shooter. But set in England as well. It's obviously a big thing, like, you know, in America, but never happened in the UK England, with a child shooter, that is. Dark topic, but anyway, and it was the first thing I auditioned for. And funnily enough, everyone in my year, well, I say everyone, a lot of people in my year had already auditioned for it. In fact, I had been hearing about this show for like months. Loads of people had auditioned for it because it was obviously set in a school with 17-year-olds. We were all like 21. And so they were looking for young looking people. Yeah. And I was just like, well, why can't I get an audition for it? And I did, and I got it, which is crazy.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's funny when that happens, isn't it? And you're like, oh my God, now I've actually got to do it. I've got to do being an actor. And can you remember anything about the audition process for that? Because I imagine
for Big.
Yeah, I imagine auditioning as a 13-year-old is very different to auditioning as an adult. Right?
I've done a couple of adult auditions and I much prefer them.
Really?
Because as a child, they see so many kids.
Yeah.
So they're quite, in a way, they're kind of similar to uni auditions. You're all in a room and you all sing in front of each other and you dance. And so Big, I went in 3 times, I think.
Wow,
so 3 rounds. In my first round, I think I had to sing Happy Birthday. And
did you nail it?
I remember there was 4 people on the panel, and they had a block, maybe like every 3 or 4 kids, they would change the name. So you sang the name that you said was one of the panel. And I was one of the ones, so I was the first one to do a new name, and I was like, so in my head I was like, I got it, because I'd been hearing the last 3-4 people sing, and I've got the name. I don't think I heard the name properly, and I was really freaked. I was like, what is this lady's name? I don't know. And I was like, singing it, going, what's your name? But I think I was fine. I obviously got the name right.
You got through that.
And then there was dancing in that round. And then I can't remember what the second round was. And then the third round was, we went in and we had to do some sides that we got given on the day. So we got like 10 minutes to go and learn them. Or you could hold them, but I was like, I'm learning these. They're going to be in my head.
Very good.
And then we had to sing a bit more. And that was it really. You just went in with like a group, maybe like 10 to 20 kids.
Yep.
And you kind of just rotated amongst yourselves, singing and dancing and stuff.
And then you were on stage.
And then I was on stage.
And what was that like? What was that? Can you remember that feeling of like the first shows that you did?
I think, I'm trying to think back. It's quite a long time.
I know. But it's like it's one of those big moments. Like it's probably one of those things where you don't realize how big of a moment it is.
Yeah.
When you're the little 13-year-old girl going through it, right? But probably looking back now, you can be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Like in front of that many people.
And the Dominion's a big theatre. It sits like over 2,000 people. So it's a big stage. I think I just loved it.
Yeah.
I remember I wasn't scared at all. The only thing I was nervous of was going off the wrong side of the stage. I would like my exits and my entrances being on
super embarrassing.
Yeah. And when you're younger, you have chaperones.
Okay.
So they are like in charge of you, but you have to know like what you're doing. And I'd never been that in charge of myself. So when you're an adult, obviously you just take care of yourself. You take yourself where you need to go when you need to go there. But as a child, you'd be like, right, where am I going?
Yeah.
Do they know where I'm going? Or am I meant to know where I'm going? It's like, that was my only fear.
Yeah.
But I was not scared at all. I was like, get me on stage. And
Amazing.
I think I just loved it.
I imagine like, do you think certain personalities like fit that kind of life? Do you know what I mean? Do you find that like in performing arts and through your experience of like working with who you've worked, do you feel like a lot of people have a similar energy of just like, I just want to do it. I just want to perform. I just want to be in front of people. Do you feel that?
I think definitely as a child, it's just like there's such a positive energy and like bubbliness about it that I think I just had a really good time. I had like brilliant friends. I mean, my boyfriend now we met in Big.
Really?
So I made such good friends there because we all like-minded people and just had a really good time.
Wow.
And I just loved every second with it. It was
so
really
cool.
cool. We got to do some really cool things. Like I was in Children in Need that year. We opened Children in Need in 2019.
Okay.
So we got to do some really cool stuff with them.
Wow.
And as well as performing every day, which was really cool. And like all my friends would be like really jealous because I'd get to leave school halfway through the day because I went to school here and then had to get to London. So it takes a little while to get there. So they'd be like, oh, you get to miss these lessons. I'm like, I get to miss them. Oh, well.
I'm pretty big time. I'm being like driven into London.
And everyone would be like, where are you? Like people who I didn't hang out with. Where are you going? Why do you always leave early? And I was like, I'm going to London.
That's so cool.
So it was... And I got to leave school and do the thing I love most in the world instead of school.
Such a win,
which was
right?
Massive win.
Yeah.
Although I would be really tired the next day because I'd get home at like midnight and then wake up and start school at 8:30. I'd be like, hello.
Yeah. And you did that for months as well. That was months.
It was quite a short run. So I think it was on for 9 weeks.
Okay.
And then because you're a child, you can only work certain hours.
Okay.
So it'd be mainly like every other day.
Okay.
So I did 4 shows a week instead of 8.
Yeah.
But
okay.
It was really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that I'm guessing was like, that was a big moment for you in terms of deciding that it could probably be a career.
That was definitely the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Because my mum was like, and I remember my mum saying to me, this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Like minus the school. This is what you're going to do. So she was like, just take it as an opportunity to see if you could see yourself doing this or not. So that's what I did. And I was like, Mum, I have to do this. This is it. I have to do this. And
you were 13?
13.
I was also 13 when I made that decision.
Were you?
I wasn't doing a professional show, but I was doing a tour of California with Macbeth. And
That's
it was,
insane.
I literally remember the moment when I decided. Genuinely, I remember like sitting in rehearsal and just sort of imagining what it would be like to do this all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I actually think I want to do this.
Like, this is fun.
Yeah, and I made a decision right there and then. I was 13 and I was like, right, okay, cool. So what GCSEs should I have to go to be an actor? You know, what A-levels should I do? And then what drama schools should I go to and stuff like that? And I'm guessing for you, that was a kind of similar thing. You then decided, you made some decisions. I'm guessing, did you do dance as a GCSE?
I didn't have the option, but I did drama.
Okay.
And I did lots of dance at lunchtime and after school and stuff.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, all my decisions for choosing my subjects were based around musical theatre. Because I mean, I was so lucky that I knew what I wanted to do so early on that I could make the decisions that I was like, well, this is going to help and I'll need to do this for that. So I was able to aid myself in that way.
So once you had got through GCSE then, you obviously had quite a few decisions to make, right? Because there are courses that I suppose, let's say the more traditional route for everyone after GCSE is to do A-level. I would imagine the majority of people do A-levels. Then you've got BTECs, and there are some colleges obviously that will offer BTECs. And then you've got there are other things as well, like technical courses and stuff you can do. Was there ever a decision did you decide that you wanted to go down the performing arts route specifically, or was there ever a conversation of whether you should do A-levels first and then go straight to?
Well, I wanted to go to fine arts because I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and at this point I'd known for years, and I was like, this is it. I must go and train. This is my moment. But I think because I was quite academic at school, my mum was always like, well, just be careful because obviously performing arts isn't the most secure job ever. I know. So she was like, you don't want to throw away because you're quite academic. You don't want to throw that away. And so I was like, yeah, that's fair enough. And I feel like I was quite sensible, and I was aware that I wasn't going into like a secure career. So I actually auditioned for a Mildale, EDA in year 10. So because you could do a thing where you audition a year early. Okay. So that was when we were still in lockdown when I was in year 10. So I did that via self-tape and I got in there. So that was a place secured. Okay. And I think the idea that they have there is that when you go into GCSEs, there's so much pressure and so many exams and so much revision. At least you don't need to worry about that. So I had a place ready to go, which was definitely like an ease off my shoulder.
Took a lot of pressure off the exams because you knew. Yeah, fine.
And then, but Arts Ed was the one I wanted to go. And that was, what's so brilliant about Arts Ed is because they have a day school in it. Yeah. Half of my day was musical theatre and half of my day was academic. Okay. So that my mum was happy with that. I was very happy with that. So that was, I don't actually know what I would have done if I didn't get in there. I think I would have stayed at Bedford Modern. Okay. And because they have a really good drama department. So I think I would have, if I hadn't gone to Arts Ed, I think I would have stayed and done A-levels. I think that was where me and my mum were sort of discussing. Emildale was amazing, but because they don't offer any academics, I think my mum and myself, to be fair, I wanted to do English A-level, so I wasn't very keen on that. Yeah. Because I looked into doing it. You can do A-levels outside of it. Yeah. But it's such a difficult course because it's so full on that I don't think I would have been able to do it. So yeah, basically the options were Arts Ed or Bedford Modern. And luckily I got into Arts Ed. So I could do the English A-level alongside the training, which was the perfect combination for me, which was really good.
And so did you do English half of every day? So literally like 5 days a week for half a day?
So how it would work is we had 5 lessons, each an hour and 20 minutes long. 3 of those would be performing, the musical theatre. 1 of them would be a study and 1 of them would be English. Okay. And then I think on one day I had no English and an extra performing class. So I did 4. Yeah, it was my favourite day. So I did 4 English lessons a week. Okay. Which I think my friends who did A-levels, I think that's how much they did of their lessons. That's right, yeah. Like an hour and a half, 4 times a week.
And what was the study hour for?
So, because we had lots of work and revision, and in the BTEC you had theory work as well.
Of course, yeah.
And then English was like so many essays and so much revision. Yeah. So I would get all my work done there. And because I travelled 4 hours a day, 2 hours there, 2 hours back, I'd get some work done on the train, but I'd get the majority done in that. Yeah. And then whilst I was at sixth form, I worked 8:30 till 4 every Saturday. So I only had 1 day off, and I didn't want to be working, doing homework all day. So they were really helpful for that. Also, you could go to a studio and practice. do stuff like that.
Ah, so it was really full on, actually.
It was full on, yeah,
Wow.
really.
Okay. And that was the level 3 extended BTEC, right?
Yes, in musical theatre
Cool.
as well as the English literature.
Okay, nice. So you did that for 2 years.
Yes.
We're now, you're now 18?
Just turned 19.
Just turned 19. Okay, cool. So you just turned 19. And now in your mind, you're like, okay, next step.
Yeah.
And now I need to go to the big schools, right?
Yeah.
I need to go and get my degree or whatever. I know there's actually quite a lot of musical theatre colleges that don't do degrees. I don't.
Oh, really?
Does Mountview do? Mountview does a degree.
Mountview's a degree.
There are quite a lot that don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think more are now because they realise the importance of actually like getting a degree. But
Yeah.
there
So
are actually still quite a lot.
did you get a degree?
Yeah, I
in
got a
it?
degree
Yeah.
in acting. But there has been historically quite a lot that don't offer degrees. But for you, I imagine that you were looking at lots of different schools, or did you kind of have your heart set on one?
I auditioned for 6.
Okay.
And I had my heart set on one. Yeah.
And that was
That was Arts Ed.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
at Mountview.
Really?
Yeah. So I was.
Because of course, I guess you just spent 2 years at Arts Ed, right?
Yeah, and I loved it.
And you loved it.
It was
and
so brilliant.
You
Yeah.
know the building, the people, and I guess you get a good vibe for it there, right?
Yeah.
So that was your number one choice.
That was my number one choice. Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, I did get in there.
Okay. Did you have to
and-
audition?
Yes, I had to audition. We were lucky. We had a separate audition to everybody else. So the year before me had to audition like normal, like people outside of the sixth form did.
Okay.
But we had our own day and we didn't have a cut. So we got to do all our monologues, all our songs and a dance, which was really lovely because then you can show what you've been working on. But yeah, so I was very lucky with my auditions and got some places. And I was like, as soon as I got into Arts Ed, I was like, well, that's the one. I'm going there. That's it. And I don't actually know why I started to be like, wait, hang on a minute. Maybe Mountviews better for me. But I think, over time I was thinking more and more about it. And I just realized that Mountview was a better suit for me. And I'd done Arts Ed. I've got that on my CV. And I had a brilliant time there. And maybe a switch up would be nice.
I wonder if that's a thing with a lot of these places. I did a foundation course when I left school. I went to the Oxford School of Drama they did a 6-month course, which was still like and the Oxford School of Drama was like relatively kind of up and coming at the time.
Okay.
But I kind of knew that I didn't want to train there for 3 years. They did a 3-year course. I auditioned for the 3-year course. I got into the 3-year course. But then I was also auditioning at other places like RADA and Guildhall, Bristol or Vic and Lambda. And I kind of already knew that I sort of didn't really want to be in Oxford. I wanted to be in London, you know, or Bristol, if it was Bristol or Vic. I kind of, every time I went to one of those places, I realized more how I didn't want to be in the other place. But funnily enough, I'd already got my offer at Oxford when I was auditioning for all the other ones.
That was so nice to have.
100%. Oh, like that feeling of just like knowing that you're going to be somewhere.
You're safe.
You're not going to be on the street, just like wandering around, like begging, basically. But so I'd kind of already made a decision, but I think definitely it really cemented it going to other schools and seeing how they did it. And sometimes you get like, wow, the buildings are amazing here. And oh my God, the people are so lovely and everything. And not to say that your other place isn't, but you suddenly realize what else is out there, right?
Yeah. So how come you chose Guildhall? What was it for you?
Okay, it's fine. So when I was at school, there was a girl like 3 years above me who was at Guildhall, and on speech day she came back and like I guess there was like a sort of drama little performance for parents and stuff, and I went to it. I wasn't performing in it. I went to it and she performed a monologue, and I met her. I knew her, but I kind of spoke to her afterwards and I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, where are you? What are you doing? Tell me everything. And she was like, I'm at this like school called Guildhall and you know doing a degree. Wow. And I was probably about 14, so this was 1 year after I had my epiphany that I was going to be an actor. And so when I got to speak to her, I was like, oh, great. Now I know where I'm going.
I'm going there.
Yeah, well, of course, because I was 14, right? I didn't know anything else, so I was like, okay, cool. I'll just go to Guildhall, shall I? I'll just do that.
That'll be easy.
Yeah, right. And then I didn't get in my first year, so that was terrifying because I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do now? Which is where the Oxford School of Drama came into it, and I definitely. Had I not have gone there, there's no way I would have got into Guildhall. So like I owe them a massive credit because although I didn't want to go and train there for 3 years, it was perfect for what I needed, which was 6 months to learn, to completely dedicate to movement skills, like voice skills. I did singing there, obviously like monologues and stuff like that, and just really good like acting work with really good teachers. And 100%, if I didn't do that, I would not have got into my first choice. So which was your favorite place to audition for? Was it Mountview or was it Arts Ed because you had your own day?
No, I think I'm so glad we had our own day because we got to, and in Arts Ed, normally there's a cut halfway through, so you don't get to show everything. So I'm so glad that I got to show everything because you work so hard on it.
Yeah.
But actually, no, I liked going to the other places. And what was my favorite day? I'm not sure. So Mountview has 3 rounds.
Okay.
So the first round at Mountview wasn't my favorite. It was my first audition for anywhere. And it was in a different place to Mountview. So I didn't get to see the school. That wasn't. But maybe the second and the third round were.
But
good. They're really.
How are they different, those rounds?
So in the first round is songs, monologues, dance.
Okay, and that's where there's a cut. There's a cut in that one, is there, in the first round?
No, so you do that, and then a couple of weeks later, you get, you've been recalled or not.
Cool.
And then a couple of months later is the second and third round. They happen in the same week.
Okay.
So you go to the second round. What's happened there? I think you do, in the second and third round, you do some like improvisation. You learn a song which has some harmonies. You have a little like interview, only like a couple of questions. And you do your songs again. You have to choose a song from their list. So you do one song that you presented before, and if it's like your contemporary, then you choose a legit from their list or vice versa. But what's really good, and this I think is one of the reasons I chose Mountview, is because the people are so lovely.
The teachers or the
students and the teachers. Yeah. And I think, I could be wrong here, but in their third round, anybody who is going to be in the year is there. So because obviously they see so many people, thousands of people. So the first round, I think, is about narrowing it right down. Yeah. The second round happens over 2 days. And I think there's maybe like a morning group and an afternoon group. So that's like 4 groups of people. And then the last day is anybody who's might be in the year. So I would have met my whole year on that day. And they also, as well as looking for like what you can do and if you're going to be a good fit, they look to see how we work together, and I think that's why the year group's so lovely, because they assess, right, these people get on, these maybe don't, they clash a bit, and that's how, well, at least that's what I believe. That's how they form their year group. So I think that was a big factor for me, because it's just like everyone there's so nice.
It felt like a real ensemble experience with everyone. Yeah. It's interesting.
So that was
that's cool.
The audition process. So maybe Mountview. I had a crazy. It was in February half term. So literally this week last year.
Okay.
I had 4 auditions in 4 days.
Wow.
So I was like ingrained into my head. I had Mountview on Monday. I had Lane on Tuesday. I had Emildale on Wednesday, and I had Erdang on Thursday, just back to back.
Oh my God, that's insane.
Which was terrifying.
And were you going into London like every day, basically?
Yes, I stayed. I stayed on the Monday night because Lane's in Epsom.
Yeah.
So I think I did my Mountview audition in London, and then I travelled to Epsom. I went from London to Epsom. I stayed in like a Premier Inn.
Cool.
And then I took myself to Lane, and then I got a train home, and then I commuted the rest of them.
Wow.
But it was terrifying going into that week, but it was so good because I was in the mindset, and I was worried that, oh my gosh, especially having like Lane, Emildale and Erdang are so dancey that I was like, by my Erdang audition, my body's not going to be able to move. You
were worried about being exhausted, huh?
Yeah, but actually that wasn't the case. I was in the mindset of auditions, and I auditioned for 6 places, and then I got 4 just done in a week.
Yeah.
So it was so nice, like such a big weight off my shoulder when they were done.
Yeah.
And I was in the mindset of auditions, and I was doing my songs every day. And so I kind of got into like a rhythm of it. So it actually was really beneficial.
It worked out.
It worked out. It was tiring week. Yeah, really tiring.
And how long did you have to wait until you found out that you were like in the next round or not in the next round also?
All places were different, to be fair. So I think Mountview was the only one I had recalls for.
Okay.
Because Art said we didn't have a cut. And then Emildale have an interview round on the day. So I guess that's like the second round. Mm-hmm. But everywhere else was just one day. So sometimes it was months, sometimes it was weeks. That's the worst part. The waiting is really difficult.
Do you know what? That's really interesting you say that, because one of the things that I loved about Guildhall was that they told you for first round, they told you on the day.
If you got a recall.
If you were coming back, which
That's
I
really
think was
nice.
really nice. Yeah, because it meant that the pain of not getting in was over very quickly. You didn't have the doubt in your mind of like, oh my God, am I going to get in? Am I not? You find out there and then. And even if you have to leave or whatever, if they're running a bit behind, they'll like call you that day and let
That's
you know,
really good.
which is really good.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the other places I auditioned was not like that. You know, you did your audition, it felt very cold, and then you went away and you just sort of had to think about it for like sort of 2 weeks, and then you know, you find out there and then. But.
And it's really hard as well, because you're there, you've never been to these places before, so you're going, if I get in, do I want to be here? Like, is the training going to benefit me? Like, is it going to challenge me? Am I going to like it? Do I like the building, like the studios, the teachers, what subjects I'm going to learn? Like, so you're there, and it's so scary because you're like, well, maybe I don't want to go here. Or actually, no, I didn't have that. I wanted to go to everywhere I went. I came out and was like, that's the one.
Yeah.
And then I went to the next day. No, this is the place. But so it's, as well as like waiting, it's like, well, do I want to go here, or do I not? And like, I think that's really difficult as well, because it's such a big decision, because it goes really fast. 3 years. I mean, half the year's already gone. I feel like I've only just started, but it's also a big chunk of time, and it's your main jumping off point for your whole career. So it's really like scary and daunting in that, like, am I choosing the right place? So I was very lucky. I got quite a few offers, and I was like, it took ages to decide, because like, well, maybe, and like with Art Said, as soon as I got in there, I was like, well, I'm going there. But then I was like, maybe it's not the right place for me, and maybe I'm not going to be the best I can be there. So it's a really difficult one. And then you go, did I make the wrong decision? But for me, I didn't. I'm so glad I'm at Mountview.
That's awesome.
I really love it. But.
And how did you decide what pieces you were going to do? Like, was that quite a big sort of, you know, did you spend a lot of time trying different pieces out, or did you kind of know quite quickly what would have worked for your repertoire?
So I think a big help was Art Said. The sixth one, I cannot fault it. It was so brilliant. And a lot of year 13 is based around auditions, and because that's what most people do, like 99% of the year audition for places, because it's like kind of like a foundation kind of acts. You just go from there, and a lot of people go into then like college, uni. So they helped so much. So we had to do things like bring 3 auditions to next week's monologue class, and then you had to like do this quiz thing about how it suits you, and then you like add your score at the end and go, well, this one suits you better.
Okay.
And then we got to like perform in front of people, and we got feedback every week on our auditions, and one-to-one singing lessons, and I also had private singing teacher and an acting teacher. Okay. My private singing teacher I've had for years is actually my teacher at Mountview.
No way.
Yeah, and she's one of the reasons I chose Mountview, because she's so brilliant. She's so lovely, and she helped me get into Art Ed, and she helped me get into Mountview.
Great.
She was one of the main reasons I chose Mountview. But yeah, I think a massive help was doing that. And so for monologues, I had to read plays.
But having studied English lit, I imagine that was kind of okay, right?
Especially approaching Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Because you have to present a Shakespeare and a contemporary. Cool. So that can be quite daunting. But because having studied Shakespeare, I did Othello. I think you said that you did Othello as well. And like old English poems that basically speak in another language. That definitely helped, because otherwise you have no idea what you're talking 100%. About. So how are you meant to choose a monologue?
I think that's what they're testing as well. Yeah. They're testing like, what do you say? Do you know what you're saying, right? Because if you don't know what 100%. You're saying, there's no intention behind anything. Yeah.
And my private teacher helped so much with that. She was brilliant. So she gave me a bunch of monologues, and I also read plays of my own. With Shakespeare, I think and with the other one as well, I looked more at characters that would fit me. So plays that had, so I went on Drama Online, and but the first thing I'd go on a play, and the first thing I would do would go to the character list and hope that they had ages.
And look at the age.
Look at the ages, because there's no point showing them me playing a 50-year-old woman, because in 3 years' time, I'm not going to go into the industry and play a 50-year-old woman. Yeah. So that's something we were taught. Show them how you're going to be employable, and show them what you're good at. So, especially me, I look a lot younger than what I am. So age was a big thing for me. So I would look and I'd say, right, this person's 20 or 15, perfect. So and then I just scanned the play for any like big chunks of text they had. Because sometimes the character might only say 2 lines, and then you've wasted 2 hours reading a play, and you've got nothing from it. So I basically just did that, scanned loads and loads of plays, talked to the actors, because at Arts at Sixth Form, there's a bunch of different courses, and straight acting is one of them. So I had a couple of friends who were on that course, and obviously we look at musicals and composers, so we have a much broader, we know less about more, whereas they know more about just
smaller,
play. So talk to them and go, and because we presented play monologues to each other all the time, has anybody done a monologue that's like this? Or do you know any monologues that would suit me? And then they'd give you some, and then maybe they'd ask for a song, and you'd go, this would suit you really well. So we kind of like exchanged like that. So I think the main source was arts ed and plays, and then just listening,
helping to prepare you, and speaking to the right people, getting really good information,
exactly,
and then making a choice. And so
and trying it out
and getting to try it out in front of people, which is a big thing.
And if it fit in my body when I presented it to other people, or if it was like alien to me, because you know pretty straight away, could I work on this and make this really good, or this doesn't feel right at all. And then if it doesn't, you just discard it and move on.
Absolutely.
But
so being a dancer, sort of viewing yourself as dance, did you also have to prepare a dance piece?
Just for Lane.
Just for Lane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. A solo. I had to do a solo.
Okay.
For that.
And how did you decide what you were going to do for that?
I started with music. So when I choreograph, I like to choose music.
And you choreographed your own thing?
I did it with at arts again. You have mentors, so you have an acting, singing, and dance mentor. If you can sign up for them, and it's like 1-to-1. And mine was so brilliant, and I would email her and I'd be like, "Can we meet up? I need help choreographing a solo." And she was like, "Yeah, of course." So we'd meet up at lunchtimes, and we'd choreograph it together. And then once I knew it, and then she'd help clean it, and then I'd go away and I'd practice it, and so it was really good. So because I was involved with it, I wanted to show off what I could do, but also not make it too difficult that it was messy. And so it was finding that balance was really difficult, because I wanted it to be really good, but also, and that has to be impressive, but impressive is sometimes there's a line, and sometimes you can go over it and make it not very good.
Yeah.
So it was finding that was quite challenging, but my mentor Marina was so brilliant that she helped me with that. So we had the music, and I made a cut, and I was like, this is what we're doing. And we kind of just went from there.
That's amazing.
And it was really fun.
That's awesome. So what advice would you give to someone who is looking to apply to these kinds of courses, like the Lanes, the Erdangs, the Mountviews, Arts Ed and stuff like that? Obviously you had the great benefit of being at Arts Ed almost in a performing arts world. In fact, very much in a performing arts world. To someone who's, let's say, alternate reality, they did A levels, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing English and history and maybe dance A level or something like that. What advice would you give them to try and help them prepare for those auditions?
My gosh, there's so much.
Big question.
There's so much to that question. I think the places is a really important one to look into. So like the best way to find out if you're going to like a place is to go and look at it. Yeah. So do your research, see the alumni that they have, like see if you like the area that it's in, because you're there for a long time. Like you've got to, even it sounds silly, but you've like the vibe that you get from the place is so important. And I think that was something I didn't realize until I went to my auditions. And I think you learn the most about the place at your auditions because your people are teaching you and you're interacting with the students. Maybe you get a tour of the place. And open days are expensive sometimes. Well, they're free to go, but you have to travel there.
Yeah,
so open days are really good. And if you can go to it, I definitely would suggest it, but don't feel like you have to. Saying that though, you don't want to audition for too many places because I don't like 15 auditions. That's so much. And even though you're preparing basically the same material, everywhere wants its own cut or its own song. Like it might slightly vary. So that's a lot you have to do. And to mentally prepare for 15 like auditions, that's a lot. So yeah, I think try and narrow it down. So I did 6 and I think...
Do you think 6 is a good number?
I think 6 is a good number. Yeah. Personally for me, it was still like a fair amount. Okay. But you want to... They're so hard to get into that you've got to leave room that you're going to hopefully get into at least one. Yeah. So narrow it down to the ones you want to go to, and then you'll really find whether it suits you when you're there at the audition. So that's like one thing to do. Yeah. With dancing, I think I think I only had one ballet. So it depends what kind of performer you are. Obviously, in MT, some people, you might be more singer, you might be more of a dancer. I think Lane was the only place I had to do ballet. So, but obviously it's really important because it's where the foundation of all dance comes from. So definitely practice your ballet and practice your jazz because most places are going to be jazz. And usually they have a little warm up like star jumps and running. And then you want to practice like pirouettes and kicks and leaps across the room. And then they do a routine. So that's, I think knowing that information is the general format for any musical theatre, dance school. So going into it knowing, okay, I'm probably going to do this might help. And you might want to then practice your kicks or practice your balancing for your pirouettes in the morning. And so that, for me, I like to be prepared. And obviously dance is the only one you can't prepare for. You have no idea what they're going to give you. Yeah. So knowing that helped me.
But everyone is the same.
Yes.
Everyone in the room is as,
clueless as you.
Yeah, lost as you.
Yeah. Okay. But, and then the singing, the songs and the acting, like we discussed, I would read through plays, and monologue books are really good, especially if you don't know much about plays. But you got to be aware that with monologue books, a lot of people
are going to use them,
going to use those monologues, which is, I used a monologue book for my Arts Ed sixth form audition because no one had taught me not to. Yeah. So I did that, and then when I was there, that's when I was taught to read plays more. But reading plays is scary. Like there's so many options and you have no idea, and it can take a lot of time. So a really good place to go with that is, if you don't know where to start, go to a monologue book. If you like the way a monologue is written or you like a character, then go to that play and see if there's any other characters that work for you or any other monologues that character has, because then that's like an easier way in, I guess, because maybe that monologue isn't done as frequently. But it doesn't matter if you do a monologue that loads of people do, but they might just be bored of it.
But also it could play in your favor, because if a load of bad people do it and then you do it and you actually nail it, they might be like, oh, this guy's actually pretty good.
Or if you are really creative and you really think outside the box, they'll go, well, this person's put a lot of effort into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Songs, similar, just listen to soundtracks and shows that you like and stuff. And then I think another big thing with preparing is research. So once you have your song and your monologue, read the play or watch the show. And also a lot of places do interviews now. So in my head, I would like do an interview.
Like role play it?
Yeah, with myself. Or I'd write down, and I did this for my sixth form audition as well. I just second guessed the questions that it might ask me, like who's my favorite composer, and I learnt loads of that at Arts Ed sixth form. So I didn't have to prepare as much for my college auditions. But when I went for my sixth form audition, I had a whole massive like document that I'd made previously, writing because I didn't know anything about composers. So and I'd researched them all, and choreographers, which I didn't get asked about, but and I kind of had answers in my head, and then from my research, I'd like memorized little things that I could say if I was asked, and I was asked. And I think it just shows that you've gone that extra mile and that you really care. Because you can just turn up at an audition and you might be a good singer or you might have just learned a few lines, but that shows that you know what you're doing and that you're interested in the industry you're about to go into. And then that shows like the passion, I think, as well. And makes it less scary, because if someone asks you, what's your favorite composer and why? You'd be like,
panic.
I don't know. But so then you can like be like, wait, I know this one. Yeah. And I've got a good, and when you're not in that high anxiety, like stress environment, you've taken the time when you're at home in your safe space to go, why do I like them? And go, this is a good reason. And it might be a cliche reason, but if it's true, then that's okay. But if it might be like a creative reason, and in that moment when you're in the interview, you might not think of that because you're like, I don't know. But so
having written it down and almost like sort of revised it in a way, it's going to be more available to you.
Yeah, and then they might be like, oh, that's a good answer.
Tick.
Exactly.
Do you feel that auditions, professional auditions, did it feel different comparing a professional audition to a drama school audition?
Yeah.
In what way?
I mean, I think they're less scary.
The professional ones are less scary?
Professional ones.
Really?
But maybe that's because...
because the drama school audition is 3 years of your life and the rest of your life. Whereas the professional one is like, I'll probably steer for like 6 months and then that'll be it.
And I think the children professional ones and the uni ones are quite similar.
Okay.
And the adult ones are separate from that. And it's the adult professional ones that I think are less scary. But then I only auditioned for professional work as an 18-year-old. I didn't have any bills to pay. Yeah. I didn't need a job. Like I had a Saturday job, and like I was at school and I lived with my mum. Like I didn't need a job. So maybe that, I mean, you'll know about that. Maybe that changes it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it does. To be honest. Yeah. I think as soon as you start really wanting or feel like you need the job, I think that changes it. It's different now because everything's self-tape. Yeah. Pretty much. I think in fact, even with musical theatre, I hear it's becoming a lot of first round self-tapes.
Loads of self-tapes.
Yeah, which is back in the day, you go back like 5-10 years.
Pre-COVID, especially.
Yeah, pre-COVID, you would have been in a room. Yeah. You would have been in like a basement studio, probably doing with loads of other people. And the same with acting auditions as well. Like I would always be going into London. I'd be going into London like twice a week for auditions. Yeah. Like always. And then it just became self-tape. Self-tapes just became the thing. And I think that, so Bryan Cranston, the actor, amazing actor who's in Breaking Bad, he gave a piece of advice that's always really, really stuck with me, which kind of ties into that sense of feeling pressure to get a job, to audition well, right? He said that as an actor, your job isn't to get the job. That's not on you. It doesn't matter whether you get the job or not. Yeah. Basically, you need to go into that audition and just do your job well, which is to play the character, make interesting choices, and try and, create a character that serves the text really well. And then you leave. And that's your job done. And it really quite revolutionized how I thought about it when I heard him say this, because I was like, that's so true. when you leave that audition room, who cares what happens? Actually, because you've done your job, you did your bit. It's then their job to choose the actor, you know? And I think there have definitely been times in my career when I felt under a huge amount of pressure to get a job, because I'll be like, oh my God, I haven't worked for a while. Like, I'm worried about what my agent thinks. And like, you know, am I even still an actor? And then you have that like memory of hearing him say that, and you realize actually it doesn't matter, because my job isn't to get the job. My job is to just like do the acting bit well.
Do you think that approach is the same with self-tapes? Like, because you don't go into the room, you don't.
I think if anything, I think if anything, self-tapes are way easier because you're so detached from it. Yeah, because you don't meet the casting director, you don't meet the director, you don't meet the producers, you don't meet another reader or the actor playing it. You're literally just in your like living room or whatever, right? Doing it. And so I think it's much easier to create the world how you want it to be, you know? Whereas I think the pressure really ramps up when you're suddenly in a room, particularly when you've been self-taping for like years and years and years. And you're suddenly like, oh my God, another human being. I've got to actually I've got to interact
the
with them.
nervous energy.
Yeah, it's freaky. That said, the last jobs that I've got have all been in person.
Yeah.
Which is, I think for me, I'm like, I want to get back to being in the room, because you know, the data is I'm getting those jobs and I'm not getting self-tapes for some reason. And I don't know why that is. It is what it is. But
I mean, when you go in, they get a sense for who you are, don't you? And that's such a big part of getting the job, because they don't want to work with someone who's not nice. So, and in a self-tape, it's just hi and go. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Do you like self-tapes, or do you like being in person?
I think there's pros and cons to both. Yeah. If I could choose, I would choose in person. Obviously, then it's money to get there, and you have to take a whole day out basically to travel, to do everything, and you might have to cancel plans and stuff. But I personally, and it's more nerve-wracking. Like if you go wrong, you can't redo it. Yeah. But I think I perform better that way. I think when I do a self-tape, the thing I hate the most is the fact that I know I could do it again, and I will be there for hours. I need to be better at being stricter with myself, because I'll go, well, maybe I could do it better. Yeah, maybe I could do it. And by the end, like by hour 2, the same tape is coming out every time. Like really, I should just do it like 3 times and then choose the best one. Like it's not going to be in 3 takes. It's not going to be much different. So, but I put pressure on myself. Yeah. And the fact that I can just press the red button and then it's again. And then I will spend so long doing it, and I drive myself crazy.
So I've got a rule for that. To kind of like get around that, because they're like, I used to do that, and then I'd end up like with 30,000 clips, and then I'd have to spend hours watching them all.
That's another thing. Yeah.
It's so boring. And every time you watch yourself do it, you're like, why did I do it like that? When am I going to get to a good take? Yeah. And then, so I made a new rule for myself, which was, as soon as I do a take where I feel it was a decent job, I then allow myself only one more go. Okay. So I say to myself, right now I'm going to do one for me, which is basically where I'm just going to, I know I've got one in the bag. So I'm at my most relaxed. I'm just going to do one for me. And that generally is always the one I end up choosing.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's the one I'm most relaxed on.
Because you've got one in the bag. I've got
one in the bag, and I've allowed myself to do it for me, which is basically saying, choose how you want to do it. You want to say that line differently? Say that line differently. You don't think it will fit the text? Doesn't matter. Do it because it's for you, right? Yeah. And always when I watch that one back, I'm like, yeah, that's the one, because it feels a lot more natural and it feels like what I wanted to do with it. Yeah. So that's my rule, is like,
that's a good rule.
You get it once, and then just do one more for you. And then it doesn't matter. Even if you think you can do it better, it doesn't matter, because you've already got 1 or 2 that you like.
It's so hard though, isn't it? Restricting yourself, going, well, just do one more, because maybe this is the one.
I know what you mean. But
I guess that's just discipline, and it comes with more practice.
Yeah. And also time management. Also being like, okay, actually I want to go to bed because it's like 2 a.m. and I need to stop doing this. What's a day in the life like at Mountview? What do you kind of do? For someone who, you know, is maybe thinking of going there, what's it like?
So my day starts quite early because I live 2 hours away. So, but Mountview is a good one for that because it starts at 10.
Okay.
So I'm used to traveling 2 hours and starting at 8:30. So now I get up at 7. So it's like a normal,
Right.
I don't feel like a robot. Yeah, exactly. So I travel for 2 hours and I get my work done on the train. Because what's really good about Mountview is, because I know some schools have really long days, but they might have like a 2 or 3 hour break in the middle. What's really good is we have back-to-back class. We have 15 minutes in between every class and then an hour for lunch. And I don't have any studies. I don't have any frees. I go in, I do my stuff, and then I come home. So, which is why the days are shorter, which is so much nicer. So, so I do my work on the train. I start at 10 and my lessons are typically an hour and 20 long.
Okay.
And I have 4 of them a day. 2 in the morning, hour lunch, 2 in the afternoon, and then I finish at 5. On a Wednesday, I have 3 1 hour 50 classes. So 3 2-hour classes. And then on a Thursday, I have 3 50-minute classes and 1 2-hour class. So those days are a bit different, but typically it's an hour and a half. And I go in and I have, it could be anything. I do 3 ballet classes a week. I do jazz. I do pas de deux, which is partner dancing.
Okay.
So it might be like lifts or mainly lifts. Maybe like learning to dance, what it's like to dance with somebody. I have acting classes where we get up and act, and I have actor through text, which is where you are looking at the text and you're looking how to approach it, and which is really useful because that's such a big part that you think acting, well, I was going to say my lines and go, but looking at the play as a whole and your character within it and their function in it and what they say and what that could mean about them. And it's such a big part, and it changes. I will go into that lesson having one idea about my character and I'll leave going, no, that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
Because I've just it's like detective work, really.
Totally.
Which is really difficult, but really cool. And I think that my English literature definitely has aided that because I can look at a text and I'm not scared by lots of words because I'm used to reading Shakespeare. So, you can look at it, I don't know if you agree with this because you did English as well, but you can look at it from another perspective and a really analytical one that is so helpful for acting that maybe I wouldn't have got if I didn't do the English literature.
Definitely, because I think what you're learning with English literature sometimes is stuff like character motivation, like, you know, what's the writer's intention behind, you know, what they're saying here. And then what you're learning there is context and then once you've got all the context, you're then thinking like, well, what might be the best way to interpret the line, you know, to fit the writer's purpose. So I think, there's a massive crossover. I think English literature is really good to study if you're thinking of doing performing, because performing is there's always going to be, it's not true, but generally there's always text involved unless you're at dance school where it's pure dance, right? Because then it's not text, it's then how do you interpret music, right? But it's always interpreting something. Yeah. You know, there's always a stimulus, right? And so, I totally agree. I think English is really, really important. What do you think you're enjoying most at the moment? Not to throw all the other things that you don't like under the bus, but what's the thing that you're really, really you really look forward to in the week?
I think I've got 2.
Okay.
So the singing side of it, I think, because I've never been able to break it down this much, and they're so good. I've learned I could label a diagram of this space to you, and I can control parts of my larynx and my soft palate I don't even know what those things are. I wouldn't have known what they were before. Yeah. And then to be able to control them and it gives you so much more freedom when you're singing. And I think because I went to Mountview to help with my singing the most, because that's why I didn't, the singing was the main reason I wanted to train as opposed to continuing working. So that's really cool. And we do musicianship. So I'm learning to read sheet music, which is so important. And I think it's such a good lesson to have because, the job that I did over the summer, I was lucky that I had my teacher at school to help me, but they just sent sheet music. I didn't get any tracks for the first round. They just sent sheet music and they were like, prepare this. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know what this
yeah.
means. Like, it's like another language. Like, so luckily I had someone there, but you don't always have someone there, especially when you're out of the school environment. Like, finding someone who can read sheet music, and it might be I think I had a couple of days to prepare for that. So finding someone right there and then that you can say, help me with, is quite difficult to find. So that's really cool. So, that's where I learn the most, I think, because I have no music theory knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's where I learn the most. And then also improvisation.
Yeah.
I love improv.
Improv, what kind of improv? Like acting improv or okay.
Acting improv. So we have a 2-hour class.
Wow, 2 hours a week of acting improv.
And most of the time, well, the last couple of weeks, so this term we did 5 weeks and we were in groups of 4.
Okay.
And we would each improvise for about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And each week our story would develop, and we wouldn't plan it. We'd go, this is where we are and this is why we're here.
Okay.
And then we'd just go, and we had no idea what was going to happen. And neither the audience. And we'd watch each other in our group.
Yeah.
Because there's like 5 groups in a class. And just for 2 hours, you just improvise for a solid chunk of time.
Wow.
And then you'd get to watch, and you learn so much watching as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just fun watching your friends improvise.
Yeah,
it's funny, or it's like suspenseful, and like that's really good. I like that.
That's awesome.
It's really
would
awesome.
love to do that.
Did you not do that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely improvised. I've worked with quite a lot of directors, actually, like external directors who would come in, who would be, their whole thing would be improvisation. Like one of our second year pieces at Guildhall, there was no script. We improvised the entire hour show or whatever that we were then assessed on, which is crazy. And then we worked with that director in third year on an external piece, which again, everything was improvised. So basically we would sort of improvise backstage. So you'd basically be like in character for the entire thing, even when you weren't on stage.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so like backstage, you'd be improvising to get you into the scene.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
I like that. That's really
cool.
cool.
Yeah, it was wicked. That was really cool. Yeah. So improvisation, pretty big thing, pretty big part of it. Mm-hmm. I think improvisation skills teaches you to be instinctive.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Like very rarely, like in my work actually as an actor, stage or screen, have I ever been asked to improvise. Yeah. It's so rare. But I think the skill is basically like, okay, have an instinct and go with it. And what's the right instinct for your character in that moment.
And like trusting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think maybe more so musical theatre, I'm not sure, because there's a lot of ensemble work in musical theatre. Yeah. Maybe I would be, if you were in the ensemble in a play and I was in an ensemble in a musical, maybe I'd be on stage. I could be wrong. And this is me generalising entirely. But maybe I'd be on stage a bit more, because actually that's so not true, I feel. I don't know. Because I feel like you're just in more because you dance and you sing. And you like add more ways. Plays more intimate. Well, that's my opinion.
Can be. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, I mean, the musicals, I don't have a clue about musicals. I'm just like, it's just not my thing. As in, like, I was a terrible singer and a terrible dancer. So I think my skill set chose for me that musical theatre wasn't for me.
It wasn't an option.
So is there anything else you think that would be a good piece of knowledge to impart to someone who is thinking of choosing performing arts? Is there anything you would want to say to that person?
I don't know. I just think...
We have covered a lot, to be fair.
I think if you really love it, then just go for it. Yeah. Just fully go. And especially... it takes a lot of getting used to drama school, and sometimes you can feel really silly and you're like, I just look like an idiot. And I think if you feel like that, then you will look silly. But when you properly commit to it, you get so much more out of it. And I feel like that's something that I'm learning currently.
To throw yourself
just throw myself into it.
Yeah.
Because we have all day, every day. I don't have English lessons to go to or studies to revise in. Like, we have so much more time that we can break it down that much more. So I've never had to, it's always been more immediate. Like, you're going to sing a song now, go. So I think, and this is so much more beneficial to to do now. We have the time, but because I'm not used to it, it's quite intimidating. So I think just go for it and trust that you don't look stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing.
And just, work hard and just do it. But also give yourself a break.
Okay.
Because I'm the type of person, I'll like bully myself.
And obsess over something.
Yeah, and I think that's something that over the last maybe like year or two, I've had to get out of my system, like do other things, because otherwise it just consumes you and it becomes too much and then you won't enjoy it. So I think do things that is a break from that. Or like if you're getting tired and you've been practicing for an hour, just stop.
Stop and chill
like
for a
sometimes
bit,
that's better for you.
Know when to stop.
Exactly.
Know when to relax,
and I think,
and take a break.
Actually, I think that's the piece of advice I would give.
Okay.
Because that's something that I'm having to learn. And it's really difficult.
Self-discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Amazing. Well, Immy, oh my God, this has been amazing. I told you how much I was going to love being able to talk about sort of performing arts and stuff, and I really did. You've been amazing. I will leave down in the comments section maybe some links to like some of those schools that you've mentioned, obviously, because we were talking about someone who might be 16 who maybe doesn't know where they're going to go yet. So that would be like Erdang, Lane, Arts Ed, Mountview. And I'll put the links down to those schools maybe. But you've been amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you are watching along on YouTube and you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel and like the video. If you're listening on Spotify, consider giving us a rating, preferably a 5-star one, obviously. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.